Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Pigskin Addicts here, back again with another video. So, as of the recording of this video, it's about 3 hours left before the NFL trade deadline gets here. Now, we all know, we all are pretty much at the point where we know the Chargers aren't going to do anything. They're not going to do anything, even though there is needs. There are severe needs that the Chargers have as a team. And not just at wide receiver, right? You looking at the edge rusher. There's a couple other positions that could be shored up as well too, potentially in a trade. But I think we are all well versed in what the Chargers do, and we're well versed in what they don't do. This past offseason in 2022, it really rejuvenated the fan base. And it got us all excited, right? And rightfully so, because the Chargers, they typically do not have off seasons like that. They acquired a bunch of guys, a bunch of talent on both sides of the ball, and we were really excited for it. Fast forward here, mid-season 2022, things are not going well, and the Chargers do need some help. They could use some help, but we know that help is not coming, right? That help is, going to be relied on in the building, right, with practice squad guys. Maybe they might sign a guy off the streets, possibly, but there's no guarantee. So we know that the Chargers are pretty much not going to do anything at the trade deadline. The trade that I would make, right, let's get into hypotheticals. The one trade that I would have made would be for Chase Claypool, right? I would try to finagle my way into a third round pick for him. It would probably take a second, but maybe if I packaged a third and a seventh, third and a sixth to Pittsburgh, they might bite, right? Because Pittsburgh needs help. They are going to be rebuilding here pretty soon, even if they don't want to acknowledge it. But they're going to need as many draft picks as they can get, and they still have big issues at the quarterback position. So Pittsburgh, they need the draft compensation more than the Chargers do at this point right now. But he would be the only guy that I would trade for, just based off of what I've seen from him these past 3 years. Now, his production has tapered off the past couple of years. His rookie season, though, was very impressive. He had 10 touchdowns, and he was a guy that was able not just to get downfield, but to make contested catches, right? We have a guy on the roster like that. Mike Williams is in that same mold. So to have two guys who can do that would really, I think, put the Chargers over the edge offensively, right, when it comes to weapons, and also when it comes to the way that defenses look at defending the Chargers, right? You cannot be too aggressive. You can't bring everybody down in the box. You have Mike Williams, you have Chase Claypool, you have Keenan Allen. Those are guys that need attention, right? So you have to defend the Chargers in a different way, right? And it doesn't even matter what the offensive scheme or whatever. You with just those three guys, those three game changers out there, you would have to come out and respect their skills. You'd have to come out and respect everything that they can do down the field. So I think that would have completely changed the course of the offensive play calling. It would have changed the course of how the offense is playing right now too. I think it would have helped the run game. So that would have been the one trade that I would have made, just if we're getting into hypotheticals. But there's other guys out there, other guys who are not as heralded as a Chase Claypool, right? You look at Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar could have made a difference on this Charger roster. He's a guy, he's got some pretty good speed. I think he's a 4.4 guy. He's been around, he's played for a lot of teams, so he understands what his role is. He's not going to be a guy that's going to come into the building thinking that he's going to be the number one target week in and week out. He's just not that type of guy. So I think he would have made a big difference for the Chargers. I think he could have really fit in. He is a USC guy. He played at USC, so maybe to be back in LA, be back around the area, it probably could have rejuvenated him and rejuvenated his career. But I thought he was a guy, unheralded. He could have made a difference, and honestly, I don't think he would have. The cost to get him on the roster would not have been high. Maybe a fourth rounder would have got you Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, the big one as well to the Elijah Moore situation. That situation is very toxic with the Jets. Him and the franchise, they are kind of at odds, right? They benched him 2 weeks ago, and then this past week he played, I think, 5 snaps or something like that. So that situation doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the Jets are trying to do. I don't know what message they're trying to send. But if they're not going to play him, and he is clearly their most explosive offensive weapon by far, and they have some pretty good weapons on offense. But if they're not going to play him, then you need to trade him. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make sense. The whole punishment thing and all of this, it doesn't make sense in the NFL. These are grown men. They're getting paid millions of dollars. The punishment aspect of you trying to sit a talented guy who can help you, it only ends up hurting the franchise. It doesn't hurt the player. It hurts the franchise, because this guy, I think he was a second-round pick, so he does not have a fifth-round option on his contract. So this guy could be gearing up to leave New York, as soon as, next year, right? He can be ready to leave, be ready to sign somewhere else. And, in order to keep him, they would have to franchise tag him, and I don't think they're going to do that. But it doesn't make sense. The whole punishment aspect is stupid. I think the Jets are making a huge mistake with that. And I think they would be able to probably get at least a second-round pick for Elijah Moore. He is fast. He's explosive. But he's also versatile as well, too. You can use him out of the backfield. He can run the ball a little bit out of the backfield. You can line him up at the slot. He can go down the field. He can do a lot of different things. There's a lot of offenses that could use the services of Elijah Moore, but the Jets are, they're clearly into, trying to punish him for whatever reason. But I don't know, man. They should just let him go, move on. They're still a young team. They could use some more talent as well, too, in the draft next year. So I don't know why they wouldn't move on from him. It's just, very stubborn. The stubborn nature of some GMs and some franchises is perplexing. It really is. Now, even though the Chargers are not going to make any moves, I kind of want to play devil's advocate here. There's a lot of people who are saying that, yes, the Chargers need to make moves, and I am one of them. I agree. At least a wide receiver, at least somebody else in the building. With all of the injuries that the Chargers have in the wide receiver room, yes, it will be helpful. But to play devil's advocate, right, why wouldn't the Chargers give up any draft compensation? It's because Justin Herbert has not gotten paid yet, and the Chargers are already projected to be $13 million over the cap in 2023, and that's without the Herbert contract. So all of these guys, their contracts, they trigger more money next year. So you're looking at J.C. Jackson. His contract triggers more money next year. He's only at $8 million this year. It goes up to $17 million next year. Derwin James' contract, it triggers more money next year than it does for this year. Mike Williams, it triggers more money for next year than it does for this year. So you're looking at all of the financial obligations that the Chargers have. And if you take all of that into account and you look at the roster moves that the Chargers have to make to get under the cap, then you start looking and saying, where are we going to find the rest of the talent? Where are we going to make out the rest of this team? Obviously, it's in the draft, right? So if you are trading, draft compensation away for a guy who may or may not be on the roster next year, I can understand why a team would do that. Now, I do think that the Chargers should make a move, right? I do think that, because the season's not over. They are only 4-3, and the playoffs, everything is still on the table, right? Even as bad as they have played on both sides of the ball, coaching there's been a lot left to be desired as far as coaching goes on both sides of the ball as well, too. But even throughout all of that, the playoffs are still on the table, and just competing in the AFC, it's still on the table. So you should really want to improve this team as much as you possibly can right now, without worrying about 2023, 2024 and all of that stuff. So there is a fine line there. I can understand why the Chargers would not want to give up draft compensation, is because they're going to need to hit on draft picks. They're going to need as much draft compensation as they can possibly get, and they're also going to need to hit on all those draft picks as well, too, with everybody making close to top of the market money, right? Corners making almost top of the market money, a safety, a quarterback, a wide receiver, and then you got Rashawn Slater, who's going to want to get paid pretty soon as well, too. So the Chargers are going to have to plan out, financially what they're going to be able to afford and how they're going to be able to fill out the rest of the roster, right? And I think that really, really boils down to draft picks, not just having a lot of them, but hitting on draft picks and hitting on draft picks in areas of need, right? You're going to have to be able to build depth going forward. And I think if the Chargers are able to do that in the draft, I think that they will be fine. They are going to, have these draft picks. They do need to hit on them. So that's just me playing devil's advocate right there for a little bit. But yeah, that's all I got for this video, guys. We know the trade deadline is going to pass. Chargers are not going to do anything. So this is the team that we have, and they're going to have to make do with what they have on the field. But I just wanted to come on here and just have that quick message. But yeah, that's all I got for this one. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Shout out to all my new subscribers. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. And don't forget to hit the like button on your way out as well too. But that's all I got for this one. I'll be back tomorrow with more content. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you later.